You're disappointed by what happened with Cleveland on Sunday. First of all, you're a Cleveland sports fan. You should be used to being disappointed on Sundays. But if you are disappointed, you have higher expectations for the Guardians than you thought. We've got a whole series worth of storylines to break down from the opening weekend of baseball season and the Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's episode is brought to you FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. I am Justin Latta, and I hate cats.
I'm Jeff Ellis, and I'm a cat boy. I've never said I hated cats.
I know. We're having some fun for April Fools. Just
man, you're gonna get me in trouble with the cat crowd.
I am.
The ASPCA on me or something.
They're gonna wherever you go, they're gonna play that Sarah McLachlan song until you go insane.
Oh, I can't take it. No, I have to turn that commercial off. It's so sad.
It's the saddest commercial in existence.
It is.
It'll always. What's sadder, that or should we do our? I want to reach out to Sarah McLachlan and just sit there and take that song and put it over like Daniel Espino injuries and Adam Miller injuries and just make a pitching injury playlist with.
That's the new Cleveland montage, right? That ESPN always likes to show.
Yeah, now it's just going to be pitchers with injuries, heartbreakers.
Somebody asked me over the weekend about drafting Chase Burns, and I was like, just real quickly as an aside, I'll save this for tomorrow, but I was like, if you look at the history of Cleveland drafting pitchers in the first round, like Gavin Williams recently, okay, seems okay so far. We'll see. The rest of it, outside of CC Sabathia, not great. So
Greg Swindell is one of their best picks, but that's going back to the 80s.
Recently, right?
It's been pretty awful. I was telling Justin, I finally got an old laptop. I have an old computer of mine. My main driving force for it was I converted a lot of family videos from VHS to digital files, but I also found like my treasure trove of like draft and writing articles from like the 2007, 2008 to like 2013. And I found, and I got to dig it out and go through it, but I found a piece about why you shouldn't draft pitching like ever in the top 10 picks based on like hit rate and success rate. So maybe I'll dig that out and we can discuss that tomorrow. I do want to say, like right now, if I had told you, and I mentioned this to Justin before, that this team was 3-1, you would have taken that. You'd have been happy with it. There are so many unknowns. And yes, it's frustrating because this last game, Oakland really tried to give it to Cleveland. And there was just some boneheaded maneuvers. And then I hesitate to say some bad calls with the bullpen because they just didn't have options. It's the problem with this bullpen was just taxed. So you leave a guy in for 2 innings, you shouldn't. You go to a guy 3 times in 4 days. And what happened is what happens when you do those things.
Yeah, even against a team like Oakland.
I mean, Bo Naylor getting picked off third to me is more the if you want to get really annoyed about something, that's what you get really annoyed about because that's like just you run well.
That's a cardinal sin in baseball.
Unacceptable.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I mean that's the original. I mean, just the rule in general is. I know, like sometimes there are old baseball wife sales that are just goofy, but like getting thrown out at third base, whether the first or third out of the inning or even pick off, is just that's a giant no.
So then you have
not great. Yeah. And Shea Langoliers, man, he had their number all weekend, and we'll talk about some of the base running stuff.
Run him out, but that like the one bullpen guy who was left, honestly, was Clase. So it's like you would have been in an okay situation if you.
Maybe we can get to that too because I had some thoughts there. Before we get any further. This is Locked On Guardians. As Jeff said, we talk about your team, the Guardians, 5 days a week. And we are back in full force with the season finally here. No more spring training baseball to hate on. No more off-season stuff, although we do have a second base preview we do have to finish. And boy, we're going to talk a lot about Andre Gimenez today. And thank you for listening to us today and every day. Wherever you get your podcast, we're free everywhere. A lot of you tuned in on Friday. We really appreciate that. A lot of you tuned in to not only the regular episode, but also the live stream that we did. And some people had comments about the live stream.
Didn't like it.
Yeah, we had fun, but thank you to those who joined us on Thursday night, just bantering about the first game of the season and just getting excited about baseball being back and having real things to talk about. Thursday was a great game to talk about. I had a lot of friends. Obviously, it was Easter on Sunday. I saw a lot of family, and obviously, they know I do this and I cover baseball in general. And everyone's like, "Oh, are they going to be any good?" And oh, it's just Oakland. Yes, it is just Oakland. Like that's fair to say. It's just Oakland. They are not a good team. Like this Oakland team probably is going to lose 100 games again. Would not shock me if they lose 100 games.
Yeah.
But to turn the phrase around that we didn't like from Chris Valleca a year ago, their team gets paid too. These guys get paid to show up every day. And you know, outside of Sunday, Cleveland kind of beat them over the head with a stick all weekend. And
they got some guys. Like, let's not act like this is just a whole
squad of bums.
It's not a great.
It's a better team than it was a year ago, yes, but they're still probably a 95 to 100 loss team.
Yes, I mean the pitching is
especially if they have any pieces they can. Like JD Davis won't be there all year if he plays this well. There are some other guys that'll move. But here's my thing: how many times have we seen over the last, I don't know, even going back to the 90s Indians? Like I remember watching that team in the 90s, and there were times they struggled in Oakland. Like I think it was a couple of years ago, there was a graphic that the broadcast team showed. It was like, this team always has trouble playing in Oakland. Now, some of that maybe is when Oakland was good. Sure, they're not good now. But that's a hard ballpark to play in because at night it gets cold, the ball doesn't carry by the bay. It's a big ballpark, so you're hitting gappers or you're not hitting home runs because there's a lot of outfield to cover. And there's a lot of foul territory, so pitchers get pop-outs that would be out of play in most ballparks. So you're giving up offense that way. It is not the easiest place to play. It's not a great ball. It's a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. So offense can be hard to come by. And
you're also adjusting to the time change, which is always a issue.
At this time of year for Cleveland, it's not because they are in Arizona. So there's really not
I guess
an issue. They went straight from Arizona to Oakland, so there's not much to deal with.
That's fair, but I think it's also just a terrible park. Like watching that was Friday's game where you could, or was it Saturday's game, whichever one. Where
it rained Friday, yeah.
So yeah, it's like seeing the water, like the ball bouncing.
Yeah, that was not good.
No, I'm like, someone's gonna get hurt.
Yeah, I was really. I mean, I wouldn't think they're going to play that game in the first place. So I'm going to love to use this comparison because I think some people know I'm a big Ohio State football fan. I make that pretty well known. When I watch Ohio State play like UNLV or New Mexico or Rutgers, even though Rutgers has been better recently, but that's not the point. When they win those games like 31-20 or 31-17, I'm like, why aren't they? They're clearly the more talented team. They should be beating those teams by a lot more. And it frustrates me as an Ohio State fan. So when we've seen Cleveland go to Oakland over the years and they get by winning 3-2 or 2-1 or years where they had to throw a shutout just to win. And you're like, man, that stinks. They can't really go out there and do that. They clubbed Oakland the first 3 days. Okay. And I know Sunday wasn't great and Oakland tried to let him back in, and it's disappointing Cleveland didn't finish the job and take advantage of it. But if they were winning these games 3-2 or 2-1, we could sit here and say, like, okay, the pitching's great, but the offense isn't. And, how good is the pitching going to be against a better offense? At least take into account here that these games, the first 3 days, I mean, I know there was a 6-4 game on Friday, Friday, but, they were up 3-0 early, and take into account these games really weren't as close as they looked on the scoreboard for most of the weekend. So, it'd be one thing if Cleveland was going out there struggling a lot and to win these games. They didn't struggle on Thursday or Saturday. I know we'll talk about Bieber a little bit. He definitely had some struggles, but it really wasn't a struggle. They clearly looked at the better team. And I think when you're facing a team like Oakland, that's what you want. You want to look like the better team. And it's hard to sweep a 4-game series against anybody. Let's be honest. Not that I'm going to bail them out for their mistakes on Sunday.
No, and no one should. It was, but at the same time, like, 3 out of 4 is good, and there was a lot of positive signs. There's a lot of positive takeaways. Like I said, my only knocks in that loss really were, Paul Blackburn had a perfect game through 4, not great. Asking Barlow to go 2 innings was just asking for trouble, and then Morgan in 3 out of 4. But unless you're going to throw Clase in there, they were already, and the bullpen had been spent because starters are only going about 80 pitches, so it was not ideal. Right. And unfortunately, like, Carrasco labored early. He did not look sharp. He settled in actually after he hit. was it Langoliers? I can't remember who he hit. I think it might have been Langoliers. And then the next inning and a third was arguably, or 2/3 was arguably the best he threw. But with Bibee struggles, they relied on that pen. So to me, really the big thing that really got me upset was Bo Naylor's pickoff. That's one negative. So many more positives.
That really did change a lot of things that inning, for sure.
Because then didn't Gimenez follow with the single that he was scored on, and it's a whole different situation. But that's for another point in time. We're gonna come back. I know people are already like, you're so negative. We're gonna have so much positive because this was a mostly positive.
We do have a lot of positive.
Tune in. There was a lot of things to take away. There's. I'm gonna give some big Ty Freeman praise.
Stay tuned for that because Jeff has not had a lot of that in the past. So all that coming up on Locked On Guardians. We are getting down to the end of the tournament. But you want to know what? It is April now. It's April 1st. March, though, is my favorite month of the year. And April is good, too, because the sports calendar is loaded. I mean, you've got, the Final Four is this week. Baseball's back. The Masters is coming up. There's so much good sports in April, making FanDuel even more excited to get in on the action. If you are a new customer of FanDuel, if you have resisted temptation so far, you can still take advantage of this deal. $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. So that's $200 you can win. If you throw down a $5 bet on something, again, really easy, prop bets, just an easy over-under. I know there's not a whole lot of easy bets, but if you want to go out and try to just take advantage, maybe it's something that's kind of a low payout, and you're like, why is it worth it? Well, if you're a new customer, you throw $5 down and you win, FanDuel is going to give you $200. You can bet that on the Final Four, MLB games, NBA playoffs are coming up, NHL, those playoffs are coming up too. So much to bet on. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Are you struggling to close deals? The Guardians didn't struggle to close too many deals this weekend, just on Sunday. But B2B selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligent platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. It helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Getting people to convert is very hard. You can get those warm leads, but sometimes they don't always convert. This is fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform. Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data. It's so important to get first-party data these days, enabling you to unlock conversations with people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/locked-on. That is linkedin.com/locked-on for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/locked-on to get that started. Sell like Andre Gimenez played this weekend. Let's be honest about that. That was a huge highlight of the weekend. Very quickly, I'll just kind of follow up to. It was very nice to see. Well, I'll wait for the bullpen thing till we get to the bad part. Let's just get to the good stuff. I think my favorite, I don't know. I mean, we talked, obviously we did the live stream. We haven't really talked about Thursday's game much because we did the live stream, but we also didn't have an episode regarding Thursday's game yet. But Shane Bieber, I mean, very easy to sit there and say, like, the best performance we've seen from him maybe since 2020. Like, not even, I know he was good in 2022.
He had some moments in 2022. He actually came out strong in 2021 before he got hurt. It was just last year was the year that he was not grand for most of the year.
Yeah. Fastball velocity was up. It was 91 and on average. So we can sit there and say, maybe that'll get better. I'm not really too concerned about that right now. The changeup was just the most confusing thing to me. Not confusing, but
with that and the cutter, like they've both not been there, and then they were there.
Yeah. So if you go back and look at Savant, he didn't use the cutter that much. I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen. The Savant was picking up his cutter because the slider grip is a little bit different. So his slider is coming in different. A lot of those cutters were actually sliders when Savant went back and recalibrated things. So he didn't throw the cutter as much as we thought. It ended up being the slider. So the slider just has a very different look to it. So Savant had a hard time picking that up, but he ended up throwing that 24% of the time. and he got 9 swings and misses out of 11 swings overall, which was fantastic. Changeup was the new toy for him. Never had a changeup. It's so bizarre to see a changeup go 90. He averaged 89 miles an hour on that changeup. His fastball averaged 91. So not often you get good changeups that are like 1 or 2 miles an hour of separation. And he just said, you know what, after that was his problem all these years, is he never could achieve the velocity separation he was looking for, which is why he never trusted his changeup. And finally, he just decided it wasn't worth it to try to ignore it or tinker with it. Just throw it, and he had great results with it. So I think we talked on Friday during the live stream. I'm very curious to see if Seattle gets tape on that, what they think of it. And because I don't think Oakland had any idea about the changeup. They looked very lost. So I'm really eager to see next time out what
I don't
Seattle
blame him.
does.
We didn't really have any idea going into
No,
that.
and Savant didn't either, the cutter and the slider. So, you got to now account for a little different looking arsenal. So I'm super curious to see how Seattle game plans for that. You said the bullpen was good most of the weekend.
It's hard. Maybe people won't agree with this, but it's like it got used. Like today, Morgan was 3 out of 4 days. He is a command specialist, and he walked the guy on 4 pitches. He was, especially coming right out of spring training. These guys aren't fully warmed up, and it's a hard situation to put anyone in. They kind of needed. The downside to Bieber getting all those strikeouts is he didn't go deep in his game. They almost needed him to go 8 or something. I assume we'll probably see someone like Beatty tomorrow, just because it's who's available. But the bullpen until today had held relatively strong. I mean, they're perfect on Thursday.
Yeah, and really, the bullpen was still good today, minus the end of the game. Like, you still had good outings from Tim Herron and Hunter Gaddis. Hunter Gaddis, first of all,
has looked
fantastic in his 2 outings. The fastball velocity is up. The slider looks good. He's able to throw the changeup again. I really do think it was a case of again, we'll find out more as he pitches more, but it certainly looks like the changeup is still the pitch we thought it was all this time. Just had to do with tipping pitches. So Hunter Gaddis, fantastic once again today. He pitched. Did Hunter Gaddis pitch in 3 games this weekend?
2.
Which was it? Just Friday
and today. Yeah.
Okay. Friday and today. So he was good. Tim Herron was good both games this weekend. He pitched in. Everybody pitched well for the most part. The only guy that didn't pitch well is Scott Barlow, which we'll leave for the next segment. But it's kind of hard to blame Morgan for today in some aspects. How about Cade Smith, by the way? Great story. So obviously,
what a debut.
If you're not a subscriber of The Athletic, Zach, our buddy, had a great piece on him. This is the first time, not to give it all away, but this is the first time in a year he's seen his family just due to some health issues with his dad and him trying to obtain a residency in the United States because he's a native of Canada. Pitched fantastic. And he didn't know he was going to be on this roster until Thursday before the game, essentially, when Cleveland decided they were going to go with him as a reliever instead of picking somebody else off the waiver wire. He was great. He looked fantastic, and his family was able to see it. And this is a guy who's an undrafted free agent. And I know it was 2020, so the draft is shortened, but
still, it means he got no money.
Right. Yeah. This is life-changing for him. So this is a great
massively life-changing.
He was great.
For those who don't know, anyone who didn't go in those top 5 rounds get a max signing bonus of $20,000,
which is nothing in baseball.
No, because he had to live off that, because you get you make about $10,000 in the minors per year.
Yeah.
So he would have got more than that in any other year. So it's just unfortunate for him, but fortunate for him now. And boy, did he look good. And we are very happy for Cade Smith.
Absolutely. Great story. You want to talk about Tyler Freeman, especially.
Yeah. Okay. So listen, I have not been the highest person on Tyler Freeman, and that has put me on some hate lists. Nunzio, every day are out there. I know goes out of his way. It's early. We'll see how it goes. But what I like about what I've seen with him is that he's walking, and that was not always part of his game. He was contact. The walk rates were not this good in 3 games, a walk in each game. That's a big net positive to me. He looks fine in center field. We'll see how it goes. There was part of me today that kind of wanted them to pinch hit Laureano, who was having a good game. It wasn't like a real thing. It was just like part of me was like, oh, I kind of wish they would just do the platoon here with center field when there were runners in scoring position. But that's just me being me in the moment and thinking something that's not. But it shows how much I've kind of started to move on Freeman. I want to see if he can continue it. I don't care if he doesn't hit home runs. That's not his game. Doubles and walks.
Doubles.
If he's doing doubles and walks, then he's going to be extremely successful, and I'll have to eat my words. But in the minors, he was not doing the walks. So as long as this approach stays, then he is evolved as a hitter, which happens. And I think he could be a very good center fielder. And I mean, I don't think he's ever going to be necessarily a plus defender because that's a hard thing to be. But if he's just average and an average bat, that's a top 10 center fielder.
Right. Average defender, and you're a league average bat, like especially in Cleveland, that's going to win you a lot of people over. They have options in center field, and he looks like the best option right now.
They're like Ben Lively, full of options.
Poor guy. Well, Cleveland might need him the way things went this weekend in some ways. I also point out, too, the base running aggressiveness. I know Shea Langoliers really shut them down the other day, and he obviously did a great job on Sunday against them, too. But and the Bo Naylor thing stinks, but keep running. Like they ran the bases very aggressively. They tried to steal. They stole 3 bases. No, they stole 1 3 base. They stole 8 bases over the weekend up until Sunday. Cal
McCann is. Listen, I liked that draft pick, but even at the time, I'm like, that is a future first baseman. And boy, did they take advantage of him. But
which is what you're supposed to do. No steals on Sunday, by the way. So there you go.
Yeah,
they didn't even attempt to steal. They got obviously Bo Naylor got picked off. So they had 8 steals. And like I said, I know they got shut down on Saturday by Langoliers or Friday by Langoliers, but keep running. Like, I know there is a law of diminishing returns if you do eventually get thrown out too often, but the way that the rules are set up now, and they have guys that could run. Gimenez just ran at will pretty much all weekend, especially on Saturday. Roque can run. Jose, Quan, Freeman, Florial can run if he gets on base. Brennan. I mean, Josh Naylor tried to steal a base. Why not? Gabriel Arias can run. Bo Naylor can run. Most of the guys in this team can run the bases. I think David Fry and Austin Hedges are probably the only guys that shouldn't be running. Josh Naylor can pick his spots, but everybody else.
I mean, he tried to run after he got beamed on the hand and he got scared. And we're like, "What are you doing? Your hand's bothering you. Don't dive in head first."
I think he was just trying to cut. He was just trying to come out of the game. Like, all right, it hurts. Let me go back. There's your conspiracy for the show. All right, we'll talk about some of the downside. Mostly, this is going to be Sunday's game, and coming up short in the pen. We'll talk about an injury too that we have to talk about as well, and then we'll look ahead to the Seattle series coming up, which should be interesting.
But first, let's talk about our friends over on Amazon Fire. Well, Amazon and their Fire TV stick and their Fire channels. Their channels are not just Fire channels; they're Fire. Is that a bad joke?
As the kids would say to these days, we are not kids.
Fire TV. You can go there for millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's the opening weekend for baseball, college basketball tournament, you're going to want Fire TV. And they just created a Fire channel. What is a Fire channel besides something that is absolute fire? It's going to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands like, us and Locked On for free. It's going to include all of Locked On, most of the big pro leagues, college conferences as well. Fire TV lets you dive into the game, analysis, highlights, and more to keep you up to date in the world of sports. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, traveling, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All one word. It's fire.
On fire. Guardians not on fire on Sunday, obviously. Oakland tried to give him that game because what did we talk about a year ago? Is that
avoided it.
Yeah, we talked last year about how good teams find a way to win games, bad teams find a way to lose. And a lot of times in 2023, the Guardians found ways to lose. They were not a good team, as we saw. They did lose. I'm not going to say they found a way to lose today, but they found a way not to take advantage of what Oakland was giving them.
Found ways to lose. Cleveland just did not jump on those.
Didn't take advantage. I would say the thing today, too, is this is the first time we can really second guess vote on a bullpen decision. And you brought it up. I mean, Morgan pitched 3 times in 4 days. Probably not the first reliever on this list that I would be pitching 3 times in 4 days. I'm not really sure. Maybe it had to do with availability, who threw on Saturday and who was available, because you couldn't go to Beatty because he threw 25 pitches the day before, so that was an issue.
You already like this is a situation where I almost feel like Gaddis should have gone 2 innings. Like he is a guy who has been a starter in the past.
Yes.
Like they needed him to go 2 innings. They needed more out of him maybe instead of just 1 inning. Was it Sandlin had thrown Saturday? They just didn't have a lot of guys.
I think Sandlin would have been an option too because he threw Saturday. He did not throw Friday. Like he could have gone to him on back-to-back days too. Like, there were other options. He only threw 17 pitches. I feel like you could probably get 10 out of him. And he looked great Friday or Saturday.
He did.
He looked great.
It's that hard situation where again the starters didn't go long. You didn't have a great rotation in this one. Everyone kind of had their issues. I mean, was it like Logan Allen was just getting abused by JD Davis? And was that the game, right? It's like he leads off the 5th, and you're like, oh, great, a 3rd time through the order, boom, home run number 2. Like that's what JD Davis does. He kills lefties. So they didn't leave him in. He was already over 80 pitches. It's a really hard situation to be in. Leaving Barlow, who's been your least impressive pitcher, to pitch a 2nd inning was just asking for trouble.
And he also pitched 2 days in a row. Like Barlow also pitched on Saturday. So no, he didn't. He pitched Friday. I'm sorry.
Friday, yeah. But he was not good on Friday.
He was not good Friday. So that's questionable right there to go to 2nd inning. I agree. I think Gaddis might have been the better option to go 2 innings at this point, the way he's looked. Herron threw 15 pitches, but again, he also threw on he threw Friday. So I mean he could have gone. Yeah. Tim Herron went multiple innings last year a couple times, so he could have done it. And Tim Herron, I know, it matters where these guys are at. And look, all these guys are still building up on March, but Herron in the past, I know they've had multi-inning outings from him in the minors with that in mind. So he's done it in the past, and it's early in the year. But yeah, this is the first time you can really maybe second-guess vote on some bullpen decisions, and he'll figure out. I'm not saying like we should.
I don't know if there was a good option. That's the one thing I'll say about this whole thing is I don't know if there was any way to win.
This is probably showing you right now that the impact of the injuries. You don't have Trevor Stephan. You don't have Sam Henches. You're just missing some guys in the pen that you normally would rely on in these situations. And, there's still 8 relievers out there. It's not like they don't have 8 relievers, but that's the thing about the rotation too. And it's early. They're not going to push guys super early. Like Bivey threw the most pitches of any starter, 88 on Saturday. And let's be honest, Bivey kind of struggled. We are obviously a pro Tanner Bivey podcast. We do say that, but he pitched well in the 1st inning, and then after that,
control
was a hard time finding the strike zone. Yeah. So he only went 4 innings, and I thought part of the reason that,
which was actually the least of any starter, right? He was the only one who didn't go.
He was the only one 4, but he threw the most pitches of anybody.
Yeah,
I thought the reason that they decided to go with him on Saturday versus on Thursday was because they wanted to split Allen and Carrasco up, because Allen has a tendency to get knocked out early because he nibbles and he has things like that happened with the home runs with JD Davis. And then you had Carrasco on Sunday, who, we didn't know how that was going to go because he wasn't good last year and he was definitely shaky. He pitched better later in the game, but I thought part of the reason to move Bibee to Saturday was to, maybe give some cover for the bullpen in case things went bad. And unfortunately, Bibee had the shortest start of anybody, which, I'm sure he'll be better. I have no doubts he'll be better, but that was definitely disappointing that all these guys.
One of his worst starts just in general.
Yeah. None of these guys got really deep into the game. I mean, again, Bieber threw a lot of pitches early because of strikeouts. They weren't going to push these guys super long, but none of them were able to get into the 7th inning. So the bullpen had to work a little bit more. So that's why they were out of options. They're short because of injuries. Yes, the opposite of Ben Lively. He has so many options.
And this is why, they went and made the trades they made. They got some interesting depth there. And then you also either DM me or text me. It's like on top of, Peach Strzelecki and Zach Kent, who give him some depth. Nick Enright was throwing a little harder, which is another guy we're rooting for to maybe get an opportunity, right?
Wasn't he throwing harder? Yeah, he was up to 95 in spring training, and then he was 92, 94 the other day. So he looked really good. And then part of the reasons also, too, this is not a good thing from the weekend either, is that we found out on Thursday or Friday, I should say, that Joey Cantillo is going to miss 8 to 10 weeks with a hamstring injury. So that also probably explains getting some of the pitchers they picked up on opening day on Thursday too. But
it feels like Zach Kent is going to be tried as a starter because they
no,
need
he's listed as a reliever right now. He is
really?
Not in the he is not in the Clippers.
I just thought
rotation.
With Cantillo going down that he would for sure be flipped in, as he's been a starter most of his career. Though I guess he's probably going to be a reliever if he makes his team. So I mean, in that regard, good on them for just jumping to where he would end up helping them more than likely.
Right. Yeah, I think it just gives them more options to call up and down in case there's a bullpen issue down the road, which this weekend might have already shown that. So we'll see what happens with that, but definitely a bad break for Cantillo. He pitched so good in spring training, and the team was so high on him, and then he was doing workouts. He wasn't even like pitching; he was just doing like some workouts, and he just pulled the hamstring. So now he's going to be out. That's at least 8 weeks. Puts him
2.5 months.
We're talking June, yeah. So this is a guy who's already missed a lot of time.
And
I guess
the history of missing time too. That's the
at least it's not an arm injury. Like in the past, he's had shoulder problems. He's had oblique issues. So, I guess this is a thing that could affect anybody. I mean, hey, Royce Lewis played 5 innings, and he's gotten a quad strain that's going to keep him out for 2 months too. So we did not get to the Mariners too much yet, but I guess we can quickly talk about the pitching matchups. So April 1st in Seattle is going to be Emerson Hancock and Tristan McKenzie. Hancock is a former high pick, has not pitched like that in the minors. And the only reason he's even in the rotation is because Brian Wu is injured. So he was not supposed to be in the Mariners opening day rotation. So he's not, great, at least in terms of what he was expected to be.
He's definitely the one you want to face in that rotation.
Yeah, so he'll go against Tristan McKenzie. And then Tuesday is a rematch of last year's opening day. That is Luis Castillo and Shane Bieber. So that'll be must-watch television on Tuesday. Wednesday is going to be a tough one. You have George Kirby versus Logan Allen. George Kirby was fantastic in his first outing. So
a young candidate to almost everywhere you look.
Yeah, this is going to be a good test for this offense. Those, at least the second 2 games, because Castillo's a tough customer too. I don't know. The Mariners, they did okay against the Red Sox this weekend. Not great. Their lineup is not the deepest. I mean, they have Crawford's okay. Rodriguez is obviously a star. Polanco has been a thorn in the Guardian side in the past. Garver already got hurt from one game. Cal Raleigh's great. Mitch Haniger's always hurt. And then Ty Francis had injury issues. So I know they have Dominic Canzone, a guy you like. So, and their bullpen throws hard, but it's not perfect. They're missing guys too in their bullpen.
Yeah.
No Matt Brash, no Gregory Santos. So should be an interesting series. We didn't get to talk about the affiliate rosters today. I will be talking about that on the Guardians of the Future podcast. If you want to hear more about that, we might touch on it tomorrow as we do that with our college baseball weekend update.
Which I hope you're listening to, because we talked about Corey Collins, and boy, did he go off on.
Look at that
this weekend.
Almost like you know what you're talking about, Jeff. Sometimes.
Rarely.
Then we got to do our second base position preview.
Yes,
as well, especially with how good Andre. We didn't even really mention Andre Gimenez.
He was definitely like, if I was doing my 3 stars for the weekend, it's Bieber, it's Andre Gimenez, and then it might be Ty Freeman.
Jose.
It's probably Jose.
I know nobody loves history, but maybe I'll save this for tomorrow. But Jose is going to be top 3 in home runs by the end of the year. That first home run he hit past Carlos Santana. He's closing in on Earl Averill. And he's just behind Manny, Bell, and Tommy. Tommy and Bell, I mean, we're talking like towering physical dudes. Then you got Jose Ramirez right behind him. That's pretty incredible.
Yep. Thank you for joining us again. Remember to rate and review, download daily. It helps. Be an everydayer. Make sure you're commenting, smash the like, all that stuff. Thank you for being a part of some record numbers on Friday. And